I was completely shocked by what I just read. I committed a momentary indiscretion on a war-scarred battlefield that didn't even involve actual sex. She blames my military career for interfering with our marriage. She knew what she was getting into when she married me. I sacrificed my life to protect our country to provide for her, and she blames me. Well, to hell with it. Okay, Leslie, here's what we'll do. We'll finish this bottle of wine right now. Then we'll go up to my marital bed and have sex like bunnies all night. And then we'll see what happens, I told her. We sat in the living room and talked. Are you okay, Rick? What did she say in the letter? I handed the letter to her so she could read it herself. When she finished, there was a look of shock on her face. So, she knew you were in the army when she got married, right? I simply nodded. Then how could she blame you for this, knowing what she was getting into? I shrugged and took a sip of wine. Rick, I don't believe this for a minute, but is what she said true? Did you cheat on her there? She asked me. I sighed heavily. Technically, yes. It was a moment on the battlefield when the adrenaline went through the roof. It was just sex, nothing more, and only once. So she just assumed it was more than it was? Yes, it's still cheating, but you're right. It's not as bad as what she's doing now. We finished the glasses of wine we were drinking, and I stood up, extending my hand to Leslie. She took it, and I led her upstairs to my bedroom. I looked into her eyes as I stood by the bed. My wife wanted me to have her until she was unconscious while she was gone. I no longer cared about what she wanted. I smiled at Leslie and leaned down to kiss her. Her soft lips pressed against mine felt amazing. It was the first kiss I'd had with someone other than my wife in a very long time, and it was amazing. I decided that I would not have sex with Leslie. I was going to make love to her. I pressed her body to mine, continuing to kiss her, feeling her melt in my arms. Our tongues fought against each other, and we clung to each other as if we were trying to merge into one. God, Rick, that was amazing. I don't think anyone has ever given me this much pleasure. Even your husband, I asked. No, neither he nor most lovers like the thought of doing this to a woman, she said. This is just stupid, I said, hovering over her, looking into her eyes. I fell on the bed next to her and hugged her tightly. That was amazing, Rick, thank you. I thought I heard a sob in her voice, but I wasn't sure. I kissed the top of her head, and we both soon fell asleep. I woke up the next morning to the sounds of cooking in the kitchen. I smelled bacon and coffee. It smelled wonderful. I got dressed and went downstairs to find Leslie at the stove preparing breakfast for us. I walked up to her, hugged her, and kissed her neck. This smells wonderful. Thanks for cooking, but you didn't have to do that for me. It's no problem, Rick. I like to cook. Come on, breakfast is ready. Let's eat, she said. We had breakfast in relative peace and quiet. When we finished and put the dishes away, Leslie asked, "What are you going to do with Marcy?" Let me ask you first. Did she leave you any instructions about contacting her or telling her about everything that happened here? I asked her. No, she said she doesn't care and doesn't want to know as long as we're having fun. Why? Because I'm going to divorce this stupid bitch. I can't believe she thought I'd actually sit here for 6 weeks and put up with her cheating. I just don't want her to know about it until she gets the papers. I told her. Don't worry, Rick. I wouldn't say anything even now when I'm talking to her. After reading this letter, I don't think she deserves this, Leslie said. Thanks, Leslie. I plan to contact my lawyer today and see if he can recommend a good family lawyer, I told her. Thank you for everything. I think it's time for me to let you go to your husband. I stood up and hugged her. She sighed, hugging me back. She seemed almost sad as she said, Yeah, I think I should go. I'll see you tonight, Rick, if you want some company. Of course I would, I told her as I walked her to the door. I picked up the phone and called my lawyer's office. Good morning, Goldstein and Carr. How may I help you? Hello, Franny. This is Rick Weston. Is Jack in the office today? I need to talk to him for a few minutes, if it's available. Oh, hi, Rick. He just came in. Just a minute, I'll transfer you to him, she told me. The line buzzed and Jack answered, "Hey, Rick, how can I help you?" I sighed. "I need the name of a good divorce lawyer, Jack." "What? Rick, what's going on? I never thought you and Marcy would break up." I told him what was going on, and the line went silent for a minute. "Jesus, man, is she crazy or something? What was she thinking?" he asked. "I don't know, Jack, but I'm not going to put up with this," I said. "Sorry, buddy. Okay, you need a lawyer named Jennifer Walters, and whatever you do, don't make jokes about She-Hulk. She hates it," he told me. He gave me the number and address where to find her, and I thanked him. I then immediately called her office. "Jennifer Walters' office, how may I help you?" I heard a friendly voice on the phone. "Hello, my name is Rick Weston. I was recommended by my friend and attorney Jack Carr. I would like to schedule a meeting as soon as possible to discuss divorce." "Just a minute, Mr. Weston. I'll check when we can see you," she told me. I waited about a minute before she came back. "Mr. Bither Weston, if you can arrive in half an hour, she can see you today." "That's fine. I'll come out now," I told her. I made sure I grabbed the letter Marcy had left to show the lawyer, grabbed my keys, and walked out the door. I managed to get to her office in 15 minutes. Her office was easy to find, and I went inside. A young girl, perhaps 23 or 24 years old, was sitting at the table at the entrance. She was pretty, with long blonde hair pulled back into a ponytail. Her sparkling blue eyes and smile lit up the room as she looked at me. "Good morning. You must be Mr. Bither Weston. You can go straight there," she said, pointing to the door on the left. "Miss Walters is ready to see you." "Thank you very much," I said, smiling at her. I knocked on the door and entered. A mature woman of about 35 years old with black hair and brown eyes was sitting at the table. "Mr. Weston, please come in and sit down." "Thanks, and call me Rick," I said. "Okay, Rick. So you want a divorce, otherwise you probably wouldn't be here. Give me the details." I told her my story so she knew everything. About his military career, about what happened to Derder. I also told her about the phone conversation and showed her the letter Marcy left. She read the letter, then put it down and just looked at me in amazement. "I didn't know someone could be so selfish or stupid," she said, shaking her head. "Rick, tell me you didn't sleep with that Leslie woman like she told you." Well, last night I was angry and thought that my marriage was over anyway." She sighed heavily. "Damn it. Okay, here's what you have to do from now on until she gets the papers. No more sex. It's still adultery. Make sure no one finds out about it and tell Leslie same." "Okay, I'll do it," I told her. "Is it possible to serve her with the papers while she is in Bogota? As soon as possible," I asked. "I'm sure we can arrange this. However, it will cost more. You will have to pay for airfare, as well as the process server's time and any food expenses." "It will be money well spent," I said. "How soon can this be prepared?" "I can have the paperwork ready by tomorrow. I will contact the process server agency and make arrangements to travel to Bogota. The cost will be added to your final bill. I assume you want to file for divorce on the grounds of adultery," she asked. "Yeah, I want to hold her as tight as possible. Can I sue that stupid doctor for alienation of love, and maybe sue the hospital for violating the moral code or something? I know that might not go anywhere. Lead, but I know the press will have a lot of fun with this, and I want this bastard to suffer," I asked her. "I can have it all ready and hand it to him at the same time I hand it to her. You're right, it probably won't work out. However, the hospital might offer you a settlement and fire him to avoid publicity and bad publicity." "Okay, looks like we have a plan. Thank you very much, Miss Walters," I said. I shook her hand and left the office. I still had a few calls I needed to make. The first thing I needed to do was call my children. I knew they were both on vacation that week, so I dialed Rhonda's number. "Dad, this is unexpected. How are you? Is everything okay?" she asked. "Not really, honey." "Hey, are you busy tonight?" I asked. "No, Dad, I have no plans, but you're bothering me a little. What's going on? I'll explain everything in the evening. Can you call your brother, please, and ask him to come too? I asked her. Of course, Dad. I'll call him. Thank you, honey. I love you. I love you too, Daddy, she said. Now there was the last call, even more difficult. I dialed Josh's number. It's only fair that he knows what his bitch wife is doing behind his back. I dialed the number, and he answered the third ring. Rick, haven't heard from you in a while. How are you? He asked. I wish everything was fine, Josh. I really wish I could. Are you busy? Can we meet? Maybe at the pub? I asked him. Yeah, sure, Rick, no problem. I can be there in 20 minutes. See you. I got to the pub and found a table in the corner, away from the few customers. I ordered a beer and a Jose Cuervo shot. Josh came in and found me. He saw drinks waiting for him. I don't know about this shot, Rick. I'm not much of a hard drinker, he told me. Trust me, my friend. You'll need this, I said with a grim expression. I told him the whole story about Marcy and me. From beginning to end, he listened to everything with pity on his face. I'm sorry to hear that, Rick, I really am. But what does that have to do with me, and why do I need this shot? I'm coming to this now, Josh. You see, I couldn't reach Marcy in her room, so I called your wife's room to find out where she was. Josh, I'm sorry to say, but there was another man in her room. She basically admitted to me that she was cheating on you and begged me not to tell you anything in exchange for information about Marcy's whereabouts. I couldn't do that to you. I felt like you needed to know what she was doing behind your back. I saw anger and sadness fighting on his face. In the end, anger won. He took the shot and downed it, then drank his beer. That cheater. I'm really sorry this happened to you, Josh. I wish I didn't have to be the one to tell it. Here's the number for my divorce lawyer, if you decide to break things off with her. I gave him my lawyer's business card. We spent a few hours in the pub, drinking a couple of beers and talking about our shitty lives and our wives. It was getting late, and I needed to get home to tell the kids the bad news about their mother. I was just getting out of the car when my kids pulled into the driveway almost simultaneously. Rhonda came out first and immediately approached me. Okay, Dad, we're here. What's going on? Come inside and I'll tell you everything, I told them both as Kyle joined us. We went inside and I grabbed a drink and offered them one too, but they refused. Dad, please just tell us what's going on. We're worried to death, Kyle said. I sat down in my chair with a sigh. There is no easy way to tell this to your children, no matter their age. I am divorcing your mother. What? They both screamed at the same time. Calm down. Read this. I gave them the letter she left for me. Rhonda grabbed the letter and Kyle read it over her shoulder. What the hell happened to her head? Did she get hit with a bitch's stick? Rhonda said angrily. Kyle just sat there in amazement. I continued to tell them the whole story from beginning to end. I told them about the Red Roof Inn and all their mother's complaints about me being away all the time. I even admitted to my only mistake on the battlefield. So you only cheated once, and you didn't have sex with her, you just gave her pleasure, right? Rhonda asked. Yes, just once, and that's all it was. It was a moment of adrenaline and fear that neither of us intended to repeat. What your mother is doing now has been planned for much longer and involves much more than I did. Rhonda took out her phone and started dialing a number. What are you doing? I asked. I'm calling this cheater and I'll tell her everything I think. No, don't do that. Don't do it yet. I'm going to give her the papers while she's there. I don't want her to know anything is wrong until she's served the papers. After she's served the papers. You can tell her whatever you want. I definitely won't stop you. Kyle just sat there shaking his head. I just can't believe she did this to us, to you, after all these years together. I know, son. It's hard for me to accept, too. What about Leslie's neighbor that bitch mentioned? Have you done anything to her? Rhonda asked. As much as I hated lying to my children, I remembered what my lawyer told me. No, honey, I'm still married. Leslie is a sweet, wonderful, caring woman. She has a strange lifestyle, but I won't judge anyone for the way they want to live. When your mother officially receives the papers, I will consider other options. We talked for another hour before they both had to go home. I was in the kitchen when I heard a knock on the back door. I opened it and saw Leslie smiling. She looked gorgeous in denim shorts and a crop top that just covered her gorgeous breasts, leaving the rest of her body on show. "Hey neighbor, come in. Let's just say you look great tonight," I told her as I closed the door behind her. "Thank you, kind sir," she said, beaming. "Where is Vincent today?" I asked. "Oh, he's at home, watching something on TV," she said. "I see. He didn't want to come?" "Oh, he wanted to, but I told him I wanted to be alone with you today," she said with a smile. "Oh, I see. Leslie, we need to talk before we go any further," I told her. "Is something wrong? Did I do something wrong by telling him not to come?" she asked with a worried expression on her face. "No, not at all. In fact, I prefer you to just be with me. I talked to my lawyer today, and she thinks it's best if we don't have sex or tell anyone about it." We had sex until Marcy got the divorce papers. "Oh, I see," she said with a smile. "You scared me a little. It's not hard for me to just sit and enjoy your company with a glass of wine. It's quite nice." This is how we spent the whole evening. We sat in front of the fireplace, drank wine, and talked. We avoided talking about Marcy and my marriage. We avoided talking about Vincent and their lifestyle. We just talked and got to know each other better as people. I told her stories about my time in the army, and she told me stories about her childhood. I didn't notice how morning came. We both fell asleep on the couch, cuddled up to each other. I looked down and smiled when I saw her looking at me. "Good morning." She smiled back. "Good morning, Rick. Looks like we fell asleep," she laughed. "Did you sleep well?" "You know, honestly, this was the best sleep I've had in a long time," I told her. She stood up and stretched. I couldn't help but stare at her gorgeous body as she arched her back, her breasts standing out. She truly was a magnificent woman. "So how long do you think it will take for you to become a free man?" she asked me. "My lawyer said the documents will be ready today. It will cost more, but I intend to serve them while she is in Bolivia, instead of waiting for her to return in 6 weeks. I think she'll be delighted with this," she laughed, then sighed. "I think it's time for me to go back to my husband." I looked at her. "Leslie, what's going on? Every time you mention going back to your husband, you look miserable. I know it's none of my business, but I don't like seeing you unhappy." "Is it that obvious?" she asked. I simply nodded. She sighed again and sat down on the sofa, resting her elbows on her knees and her chin on her hands. I sat down next to her, waiting for what she would say. I didn't want to put pressure on her. She took a deep breath. "None of this is my life, Rick. I hate it." I was confused. "I thought you and Vincent were happy. I thought you both loved this lifestyle," I said. "No, he wanted it. He begged, cried, and asked for a long time until I finally agreed. He always chooses the people I sleep with, and more often than not they turn out to be losers. You, Rick, are the first person I chose myself. The first one I wanted to sleep with, and I told him I would do it whether he liked it or not." "So why do you continue to live this lifestyle?" I asked. "Honestly, I don't know anymore. I loved him, or at least I thought I did. But now I can't stand him. I've been thinking about divorce for a long time. The problem is that I don't know where to go. The house belongs to him from before our marriage." As strange as it may sound, giving you marriage advice is inappropriate in my situation. However, if you are unhappy, you should get a divorce and move on. As for housing, you can stay here. I have enough space. I plan to keep this house after the divorce, even if I have to buy her share. Today, I'm going to change the locks." "Really, Rick? You'd really do this for me?" she asked. "Of course. I care about you. I don't want you to have to move away and not be able to see you anymore. Just because we can't have sex for a while doesn't mean we can't spend time together and get to know each other better," I told her. "You have no idea how much this means to me, Rick. I can't wait to spend every day with you and get to know you even better. I'll have to wait until he leaves before I start moving my things. He has to leave for work in a couple of hours, and I'll have enough time. I also need to find a good lawyer. I think I can help with this. I'll contact my lawyer. She's good at what she does, I told her. She jumped up and hugged me, kissing me on the cheek. Thank you so much, Rick, for everything you do for me. And so the rest of the day passed. I called a locksmith to change all the locks on the doors and change the alarm code. Once Leslie's husband left for work, we spent several hours moving her things, placing them in the guest room. In the evening, my lawyer called me and said that the documents were ready and submitted. She sent the process server on the morning flight to Bolivia. It turned out that Josh had also decided to divorce Penny, and she was going to be served the papers at the same time as Marcy, so we decided to split the cost of the flight since the papers were going to be served on the same server. I went to bed that night with a smile on my face, knowing that this bitch was going to have a terrible day tomorrow. She will probably lose her job and come home to a divorce, and I couldn't be happier. Marcy. We lay in bed naked. Trey had just fucked me for the second time when there was a knock on the door. We weren't expecting anyone, so we both jumped up and wrapped towels around us, covering the necessary areas. We opened the door and a man in a suit stood in front of us. He asked, "Are you Marcy Weston and Trey Cardoza?" We both said yes, and he handed each of us an envelope, then took a photo of us standing in the doorway wearing only a towel. "You have been served with summonses. Have a nice day," he said, turning around and walking away. I was too stunned to say anything, then I heard Trey's voice. "That son of a bitch sued me for alienation of love." I turned to him, still not understanding. "What? Who filed against whom?" "Your damn husband sued me for alienation of love. I believe this envelope contains your divorce papers," he told me. I was shocked. "What? No, he wouldn't do that." I tore the envelope, and there were indeed documents for divorce on the grounds of adultery. "That bastard," I screamed. I quickly ran for the phone and dialed his number. The voice box automatically turned on. He either turned off his phone or blocked me. Damn it. I decided to call my daughter for help. A few rings, and she answered. I spoke without giving her a chance to get a word in. "Rhonda, honey, you need to help me contact your father. I urgently need to talk to him." What I heard in response shocked me to the core. "Why should I help a cheating bitch like you? So that you can ruin my father even more? To me, you are dead and can rot in the hell you created for yourself. Don't try to contact me anymore. About your father, contact his lawyer." She hung up and I fell to the floor, sobbing. My daughter hates me and won't help me contact her father. What should I do now? I decided to go to my friend Penny. After getting dressed, I went to her room and knocked on the door. Dr. Froer Strong, another doctor who was with us, opened the door and let me in. I walked in and saw Penny sitting on the bed crying. She looked up at me and started screaming, "It's all because of you. Your damn husband told everything to Josh, and now he's filed for divorce. You said everything would be fine, that no one would know. You ruined my life, stupid bitch. I hope you rot in hell. Get out." I couldn't believe what was happening. This bastard was ruining everything. Back in my room, I fell on my bed, trying to figure out what to do, when my phone rang. I answered without looking who was calling, hoping it was my husband. But I heard the voice of my boss from the hospital. "Weston, do you have any idea how much trouble you've caused the hospital? Your husband sued us. This will bring a lot of bad publicity to the hospital and the program. As of now, all 4 of us are fired and are returning home immediately. Your replacements are on their way to you." I didn't even have time to say a word before he hung up. I just fell on the bed and burst into tears. My life and career were ruined by my husband and his bruised ego. Rick, I spent the last few days with Leslie helping her pack up all of Marcy's things and move them into storage. From Rhonda, I learned that she talked to her mother and told her everything she thought. I understand that she is her mother and should not hate her, but I don't care. I think Marcy deserved everything she got. Leslie filed for divorce. Vincent was not happy and tried to win her back, but she had no intention of coming back. Leslie and I were relaxing in the living room with a glass of wine when there was a knock on the door. With a sigh, I stood up. "Well, here it goes. You better stay here, Leslie. I don't want her to start something with you today." I wasn't about to open the front door so she could burst in and do whatever she wanted, so I went out the back door and walked around the house. She stood there, knocking on the door and screaming for me to open it. "Is there anything I can do to help?" I asked. She screamed, not expecting me on the other side of the house. "You son of a bitch," she screamed. "You ruined my life and career." I just laughed. "No, Marcy. You ruined your life and career by choosing to spend 6 weeks with that doctor. It's all on you. Bastard, it's okay for you to cheat, but not for me. I had one little mistake on the battlefield, Marcy. No real sex. It was one time and one time only, not 6 weeks straight with some doctor. Just open the fucking door and let me in. My key doesn't work." "Yeah, your key doesn't work because I changed the locks. All your stuff is in a storage room downtown." I tossed her the key to the warehouse. "Here's the key." "Bastard, this is my home too." "Not for long. When the divorce is finalized, since our children are adults and living separately, we will be forced to sell it and split everything 50-50, so there will be no house. You certainly won't be able to afford that house, especially without a job." "Where the hell do I go? You turned our children against me," she cried. "Honestly, I don't care. As for the children, you did this to yourself with your actions. They are adults and deserve to know that you destroyed this family. So now live with the consequences." Having said this, I turned around and walked back into the house. I heard her furious screams all the time. She eventually got into the car and drove away. I didn't know where and I didn't care. I sat back down with Leslie. "Well, she seemed pretty nice," she said. "Yeah, well, she's going to have to deal with it. She made her choice. I'm not going to be henpecked." "Oh, damn, sorry. I know you and Vincent have something like that." "Yes, but the difference is that he wanted it, and I didn't. So you have nothing to apologize for. He really was henpecked," she said. We spent the rest of the night on the couch, drinking wine and talking about what the future had in store for us. Penny begged Josh to forgive her. She told him it was only one time. She also said that Marcy convinced her that everything will be fine, that no one will ever know. After a lot of counseling, Josh eventually forgave her and ended the divorce. At first, Penny was angry at me for telling Josh about her cheating. However, over time, she realized that I had done her a favor and actually saved her marriage by stopping everything before it went too far. She thanked me endlessly. As for Vincent tried to fight the divorce, but Leslie didn't want to hear about it. Things got pretty nasty, and he ended up being humiliated in front of the entire neighborhood for his desires. He decided it was best to sign the papers, sell the house, and leave town. As for me, Marcy tried to fight. She tried to get the children on her side, but they didn't want to hear anything from her. They even testified against her in court. Leslie also testified about what Marcy wanted her to do. In the end, Marcy was defeated. I bought out her share of the house, and she moved to another state to be away from the shame and humiliation. Dr. Trey Cordoza also lost his job. It turned out that he was selling recipes on the side to earn extra money. This ultimately led to him losing his medical license and a prison sentence. As for Leslie, she moved out of the guest room and into my bedroom. As soon as our divorces were finalized, we started having sex like rabbits. 6 months after the divorce, I asked her to marry me. A year later, we got married, and my children were at the wedding, sincerely happy for me. Shortly after our honeymoon, we found out that Leslie was pregnant. We had beautiful twins. I couldn't imagine myself at my age chasing little girls, but I did it and enjoyed every minute. I never heard from Marcy again, but my son would sometimes follow her and tell her that she had become a lonely and angry woman. 6 weeks of pleasure didn't seem to give her what she wanted, but I wasn't complaining one bit. I was happier than ever. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think click to the next one. Click to the next one.